This lesson will show you how far ahead the Bible is to science, and why Paul stated, "Science falsely so called." You will be able to take this information and use it to show that the Bible is far ahead of science and man. I've never said the Bible is right and science is wrong. I am a scientist and I love science. No, they are both right. It's just that evolutionism is not part of science, it's a religion, and they defend their worldview with religious fervor and zeal. If it was real science, it would be open to all observations. But they totally purposely discredit anything that goes against their theory. And the Bible gave us loads of important scientific foreknowledge before any branch of science was founded by a creation scientist. But there are two sides to the fence. Either you take the Lord and His word as written, or you believe Satan. So what is science falsely so called? Darwinism is one huge example. A pseudoscience that has nothing to do with science as much as beer has nothing to do with sports. I mean, if Darwin were alive today, he certainly wouldn't be a Darwinist anymore. He was no scientist, and was the greatest speculator of all time. And the only degree he ever got was a theology degree. He assumed that one kind of animal can change into another kind over millions of years, yet this is not what we observe. Animals always reproduce after their kind, just like God told us. Changes within species really do happen, but have limits. But evolutionists would like to profess this means evolution, when it is not. It's just a variation. And people are not animals. They may seem to have similar functions, except that they can talk, and were created in the image of God to have a soul. DNA similarities also prove nothing. People are millions and millions of nucleotides apart from animals, and a change of only a few of those nucleotides are fatal to an animal. To you, evolutionism is an information-gaining process. But what we observe is that everything is running down and losing information, all right? Science has disproven evolution over and over again. Yet majorities and majorities of young people are never shown this, and the overwhelming evidence is for creation and a creator in liberal bias pro-New World Order public schools, from not just science, but from many other areas, and especially those who were once saved, left the path of Christ, stating they couldn't believe, because of science. By science, they really mean evolution and millions of years. Just like Paul said, oppositions of science falsely so called, which some professing have erred, which means have left, concerning the faith. I'll say that evolution is really like a joker to science. He sneakingly disguises himself, walks in, and does some damage. Because Darwinism really distorts the scientific evidence that may be there to support the existence of an intelligent designer. From corrupt dictators to yammering, conceited, egotistical atheists, this evolutionism theory has helped almost nothing in our society but corruption. It's useless. Nothing but an ancient pagan Greek plagiarism idea. The evolutionism theory makes some of the worst people in the world. Evolutionists and atheists are way behind in their science. Real science has disproved Darwinism, and has actually confirmed biblical history. But in the Bible, it has given us some clear statements about science, and thousands of years later, these were confirmed to be true. First off, Job 25:5 says, "Behold, even to the moon, and it shineth not. Yea, the stars are not pure in his sight." When did science discover that the moon did not shine on its own? Over 2300 years after Job was written. For years it was taught by pagans the moon gave off its own light. However, the Lord stated the moon does not shine by itself, but reflects a shine. The moon is like the Christian, and the sun is a picture of Christ. For the moon does not reflect its own light, but the light of the sun. The Christians have no light of their own, but reflects the light of the Lord. The moon is between the sun and the earth, and at times there's an eclipse, and it appears as if you cannot see the sun. However, it is there. The Christian is between Jesus and the world, but at times the world gets in our way and we cannot see the sun. But he is always there for us. In the days of Moses, it was superstitiously taught that the earth was carried around on a great big strong man's back, and when he sneezed, this created an earthquake. Later, as time went on, it was taught that it was carried around on the back of a turtle. People also believed that the earth was flat, and you could fall off the edge of the table. Job 26:7, He stretcheth out the north over the empty place, and hangeth the earth upon nothing. Job wrote this 3,500 years ago. Isaiah 40:22, It is he that sitteth upon the circle of the earth. Science finally caught up in the 1500s. Thanks to abolishment of religious tyrannical fanaticism, Magellan sailed around the world. I remember a song I sang as a child in homeschool. Columbus sailed the ocean blue, in 1492. Prior to Magellan and Columbus, folks believed that you could fall off the edge of the earth. If they would have just believed the Bible, it would have been no problem. They would have known that it was round, and floating in space. It took science a few thousand years to catch up to the Bible. Yet folks will state the Bible is not a science book. Genesis 2:7. And the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. In 1982, NASA scientists discovered that all the ingredients needed to form a human being can be found in clay. It took science over 6,000 to catch up. It does not take a rocket scientist to discover what the Lord told us in the first place. A few hundred years ago, man began to quarantine folks when they would have a serious disease. When I was growing up, if you had chicken pox, measles, mumps, pink eye and many others, you were not permitted out of the house until you were better. The Bible taught this over 3,500 years ago. If you were to read Leviticus chapters 13 to 15, you would find the command that God has given to keep the healthy from the sick. The Lord told the Israelites that anyone with leprosy or other communicable diseases, they were to be isolated out of the camp away from the others. They were to burn their clothes and to burn the saddle he rode on and to kill the animal. Yet it was not until two men, Pasteur and Koch, discovered the science of bacteria through the use of the microscope. This was in the 1800s. However, the Bible taught this over 3,000 years prior. Through this discovery they learned that to cleanse the skin you must use running water. Leviticus 15:13. And when he that hath an issue is cleansed of his issue, then he shall number to himself 7 days for his cleansing, and wash his clothes, and bathe his flesh in running water, and shall be clean. Prior to the discovery of bacteria, the doctors would use a basin of water to wash their hands. This would transmit the disease from one patient to another. Science was over 3,000 years behind. The book of Leviticus really has addressed a lot of health issues.